In 5 places on Earth, people routinely live past 100, not in nursing homes, but walking, working, and laughing. Researchers call these the blue zones. And when scientists studied what these centenarians do differently, the biggest surprises weren't at dinner. They were in the first hour after waking. 7 specific morning habits show up again and again, and most of them have nothing to do with food. Most people believe longevity is decided by genetics. Good genes, long life. Bad genes, you're out of luck. It's the most comforting excuse we have, because it means nothing you do matters much. The data destroys that idea. The largest study of twins, run through the Danish Twin Registry and published in the journal Human Genetics, found that only about 20 to 25% of how long you live is determined by your genes. Read that again. Up to 80% is everything else. How you move, when you eat, how you handle stress, and critically, how you start your day. That last part surprised even the researchers. Dan Buettner, the National Geographic explorer who mapped the world's 5 blue zones, Okinawa in Japan, Sardinia in Italy, Nicoya in Costa Rica, Icaria in Greece, and Loma Linda in California, noticed something the longevity supplement industry doesn't want you to know. The longest living humans on Earth don't take exotic pills. They don't run marathons. Many have never seen the inside of a gym. What they share is a set of quiet, repeated morning behaviors, done so consistently that their nervous systems, their hormones, and their cells have adapted around them. And here's the part that should grab you. Your morning routine is the one part of your entire day your body uses to set its internal clock, calibrate your stress hormones, and decide how it will spend its energy for the next 16 hours. The real question is why these 7 specific habits work, and what's actually happening inside your body when you do them. The answer starts the moment light hits your eyes. Let me start with the first habit, because it's the one nearly everyone gets wrong, and it costs you more than you realize. In every blue zone, people wake up and go outside. Not to exercise, just to be in the early light. The Sardinian shepherds are out at dawn. The Nicoyan elders sit on their porches as the sun comes up. The Okinawans tend their gardens in the cool morning air. They don't know they're doing something biologically profound, but they are. Here's the mechanism, and once you understand it, you'll never close your blinds in the morning again. Deep in your brain, behind your eyes, sits a cluster of about 20,000 nerve cells called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Think of it as the master clock of your entire body. Every organ, every cell, runs on its own little timer, but this master clock keeps them all synchronized. And it has exactly one way to set itself: light hitting your eyes in the morning. Picture an orchestra. Every musician is talented, but without a conductor, they drift out of time and the music turns to noise. Morning light is the conductor's first downbeat. When bright light, specifically the blue-rich light of early morning, hits special sensors in your eyes, it sends a signal that says, the day has begun. That signal does 3 things at once. It shuts down melatonin, the hormone that makes you sleepy. It triggers a healthy pulse of cortisol to wake you up and sharpen your mind. And it starts a roughly 14-hour countdown timer for melatonin to rise again that night, so you can sleep. This is why morning light is the single most powerful tool you have for sleep. The research here is strong. A study from Stanford and Oxford researchers on circadian rhythm found that getting bright light exposure within the first hour of waking measurably improved sleep quality and mood. Dr. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford, has spent years arguing that 10 minutes of morning sunlight may be the most underrated health habit available, and it's completely free. Now here's what most people don't grasp. Light through a window isn't enough. Glass filters out much of the intensity your master clock needs. Brightness is measured in units called lux. A well-lit indoor room is around 500 lux. An overcast morning outside is 10,000 lux. Direct morning sun can exceed 50,000. Your eyes need that outdoor intensity to set the clock cleanly. So when the Blue Zone elders step outside at dawn, they're flooding their master clock with a signal you're probably missing entirely behind your walls. And when your master clock is set correctly, everything downstream improves. Your blood sugar control follows your circadian rhythm. Your blood pressure follows it. Your hormone release, your digestion, even your immune activity, all of it runs on timers that depend on that first morning signal. When the clock drifts, these systems fall out of sync, and that chronic misalignment has been linked to higher rates of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. So the first habit is almost embarrassingly simple. Get outside, early. Let the light in. But morning light is only the beginning, because what these centenarians do next involves their bodies in a way that quietly rebuilds something you've been losing every year since you turned 30. And what happens inside your muscles when you do it is more important than any supplement on the market. The second habit is movement, but not the kind you're imagining. There's no blue zone where people do intense morning workouts. Instead, they move naturally and constantly from the moment they wake. The Sardinians walk uphill to tend animals. The Okinawans kneel and rise from the floor dozens of times a day, starting at breakfast. The Ikarians garden on sloped land. Buettner gave this a name: natural movement. Their environments make sitting still almost impossible. Here's why this matters more after 60 than at any other age. Starting around 30, you begin losing muscle mass, roughly 3 to 8% per decade, and the rate accelerates after 60. Scientists call this sarcopenia. It's one of the strongest predictors of frailty, falls, and early death in older adults. And here's the brutal part. Muscle you don't use, you lose. Your body is relentlessly efficient. It will not spend energy maintaining tissue you're not asking it to work. This is the third habit, woven into the second. Blue zone elders get on and off the floor constantly. That single motion, standing up from the ground without using your hands, requires balance, leg strength, core stability, and coordination all at once. A study published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology found that the ability to sit down and stand up from the floor without support strongly predicted survival in adults aged 51 to 80. People who struggled with it had a significantly higher death rate over the following years. One simple movement, a startling predictor. Now the empathy moment. If you've noticed, it's gotten harder to get up off the floor. If you grab furniture, or plan your route to the nearest chair, or quietly avoid sitting on the ground at all, that's not just aging. That's your body responding to disuse, telling you which abilities you've stopped asking for. And here's the hopeful part. Muscle responds to demand at any age. Studies on resistance training in people in their 80s and even 90s show real strength gains. Your body never stops listening. It just waits to be asked. If this is making sense, and you want the later habits, including the one habit researchers found most strongly tied to living past 100, which almost no health channel ever talks about, subscribe now. It's coming up in just a few minutes, and it's the one that surprised me most. The fourth morning habit is hydration before stimulation. Blue zone mornings often begin with water, herbal tea, or in Icaria, a cup of mountain tea brewed from wild herbs. Not a giant mug of coffee on an empty stomach. Here's the mechanism. While you sleep, you lose water through breathing and sweating, often a pound or more overnight. You wake up mildly dehydrated. Your blood is slightly thicker, which is one reason heart attacks and strokes cluster in the early morning hours. Drinking water on waking thins the blood back toward normal and gently signals your digestive system to come online. It's small, it's free, and it's done every single morning in places where people live longest. And the Icarian morning tea isn't just hydration. Those wild herbs, rosemary, sage, and others, contain compounds with mild blood pressure lowering and anti-inflammatory effects. Researchers studying Icaria specifically flagged this daily herbal tea habit as a possible contributor to the island's remarkably low rates of dementia and heart disease. Depending on who you ask, it's either a meaningful factor or a pleasant coincidence. The research is still evolving. But none of these habits, not the light, not the movement, not the water, reaches its full power without the one thing that ties every blue zone morning together. And it's not physical at all. What almost nobody talks about is the fifth habit, and it's the one that surprised the longevity researchers the most. Every blue zone morning has purpose built into it. In Okinawa, they call it Ikigai. In Nicoya, it's plan de vida. Both phrases translate roughly to the reason you wake up in the morning. And this isn't soft, feel-good language. It's measurable. Blue zone centenarians, when asked, can almost always tell you exactly why they got out of bed that day. A garden to tend, grandchildren to feed, a craft to finish, a friend to visit. Here's the science that makes this real. A study from the Rush Memory and Aging Project, following more than 1,000 older adults, found that people with a strong sense of purpose had a significantly lower risk of death over the study period, and a markedly lower rate of Alzheimer's disease. The researchers controlled for mood, activity, and health conditions. Purpose stood on its own. The mechanism runs straight through your nervous system. When you wake with a reason, something that matters, something that needs you, your brain releases a different chemical mix than when you wake with dread or emptiness. Purpose drives a gentle, productive form of stress, the kind that motivates rather than corrodes. Chronic purposelessness does the opposite. It's been linked to elevated cortisol, higher inflammation, and faster cognitive decline. Think about that. The reason you get out of bed may literally be keeping you alive. The sixth habit is connection, and blue zone mornings are rarely solitary. Sardinian elders greet neighbors on the walk into the village. Okinawans belong to a moai, a small group of lifelong friends who check on each other, sometimes daily, often starting in the morning. Loma Linda's Adventists begin many mornings in community. This is not a luxury. Loneliness is now considered a serious physical health risk. Research led by Dr. Julianne Holt-Lundstad, analyzing data from hundreds of thousands of people, found that chronic social isolation raises mortality risk by roughly the same amount as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Read that again. Isolation can be as deadly as a pack-a-day habit. Your nervous system evolved in tribes. It reads social connection as safety and isolation as danger, and danger, sustained for years, wears your body down through chronic stress hormones. The seventh habit ties everything together. Blue zone mornings are unhurried. There's no frantic alarm, no panicked rush, no scrolling through bad news before your feet hit the floor. Mornings begin slowly, with rhythm and ritual. This matters more than it sounds. The first thing you expose your brain to in the morning sets your stress baseline for hours. When you wake and immediately flood your nervous system with urgency, alarms, screens, headlines, you spike cortisol before your body is ready, and that elevated stress tone can shadow you all day. The Blue Zone elders never learned the neuroscience. They just kept doing what humans did for thousands of years before screens existed. Wake gently, greet the light, move the body, drink, connect. Remember why you're here. Some scientists caution that we can't isolate any single blue zone habit and prove it adds years. These are observational findings, and the people who do them differ in countless ways. That's a fair criticism, and the research is genuinely still developing. But the pattern is remarkably consistent across 5 cultures that never met each other. So the question becomes, if your body responds this clearly to how you start your day, how do you actually build a morning like this? Here's how to assemble these 7 habits into a real morning, and you don't need to overhaul your life. Each step has a mechanism behind it, and you can start tomorrow. Step 1. Get outside within 30 to 60 minutes of waking for 10 to 15 minutes. On a sunny day, 10 minutes may be enough. On a cloudy day, aim for 15 to 20. Don't stare at the sun, just be outdoors, facing the brightness without sunglasses. This sets your master clock and starts your sleep timer for that night. If you're housebound, sit by the brightest open window or step onto a porch. This is the single highest leverage step. Do this one even if you do nothing else. Step 2. Move naturally for the first hour. Don't think workout, think motion. Walk while your coffee brews. Stretch. Tend a plant. The goal is to break the stillness early and signal your muscles that the day demands them. Step 3. Get down to the floor and back up once each morning. Sit on the ground, then stand, using as little support as you safely can. If you need a chair or wall at first, use it and aim to need it less over time. This single movement trains the balance and leg strength that prevent falls. If you have joint or balance concerns, do this near a sturdy surface and check with your doctor first. Step 4. Drink a full glass of water before coffee. You wake up dehydrated and your blood is at its thickest in the early morning. Water first, stimulant second. Step 5. Name your reason for the day. Before you pick up your phone, answer one question out loud or in your head. What's one thing today that needs me? A task, a person, a small purpose. This isn't a feeling, it's a deliberate act that shapes your brain chemistry for the hours ahead. Step 6. Make one real connection before noon. A call, a message, a conversation with a neighbor. Not a screen scroll, actual contact with another human who knows your name. Step 7. Protect the first 20 minutes from urgency. No headlines, no email, no doom scrolling before your feet are steady under you. Let your nervous system wake before you hand it a problem. If even one of these was new to you, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the algorithm show this to other people over 60 who'd benefit, and most of them will never stumble onto it otherwise. Dan Buettner has spent more than 2 decades studying these communities, and his core finding is worth repeating. The longest living people on Earth didn't make heroic efforts. They built environments and routines where the healthy choice was the automatic choice. You can engineer your morning the same way. Lay out your walking shoes by the door. Put a glass by the sink. Leave the phone in another room overnight. Make the right habit the easy one. You now understand something most people never will, that the first hour of your day quietly programs the next 16, and that the world's longest living humans figured this out without a single study to tell them so. Step back and look at what these 7 habits really have in common. Not one of them is exotic. Not one costs money. Not one requires a prescription, a gadget, or a gym membership. Light, movement, water, purpose, people, calm. These are the oldest human behaviors there are, the things we did for 100,000 years before we invented ways to avoid them. That's the quiet lesson of the blue zones. The people who live longest aren't doing something extraordinary. They're doing something ordinary, every single morning for decades, and the consistency is the magic, not the intensity. The body rewards rhythm. It rewards being asked, gently and repeatedly, to do what it was built to do. And here's the part I find genuinely moving. None of these elders set out to live to 100. They weren't optimizing. They were just living inside cultures that hadn't forgotten how bodies are meant to start a day. The long life was a side effect of a well-lived morning, repeated 10,000 times. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Which of these 7 habits do you already do without realizing it? And which one are you going to add tomorrow? I'd bet most of you already do at least 2 of these naturally and never knew they were quietly extending your life. Here's the truth to carry with you. You don't find a long life. You build it, one morning at a time. Share this with someone you want to grow old beside. They may have been doing some of these for years without knowing why they work, and the ones they're missing could change everything. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it. What I've been researching for next week builds directly on this, and it's something I've spent months putting together. Your body already knows how to live long. It's just waiting for you to give it the morning it was made for.